our Gallery Chat series. Our Gallery Chats are 20-minute talks on Friday afternoons about the work and stories in the exhibition by notable speakers. And today we have Mark DiPaolo. Mark DiPaolo is a fine art photographer and director based in New York City. DiPaolo's very first assignment was to photograph a cover image of actor Henry Fonda. Most recently, his fine art photographic series, 60 Seconds, was exhibited at Leica Gallery, San Francisco, and is currently being scheduled to travel on to Los Angeles, New York City, as well as select cities around the world. He continues to work with select clients, cultivating his artistic sensibility. One of his most recent works was The Art of Backstage, a project collaborating with Avita during New York Fashion Week that was featured on Leica Camera USA as well as many other print publications. Please welcome Mark.
First of all, thank you to the Contemporary Jewish Museum, to Gravity Goldberg, who graciously has asked me to come speak to you about this amazing Kubrick collection. And, you know, Mr. Kubrick is such an amazing and multifaceted director. This is only a talk about a very small piece of what made him so unique. And I want to talk about, you know, a couple layers deeper than what you normally see. The first thing that we probably have heard about, or will now hear about, is the use of very high-speed lenses that were used in the film Barry Lyndon to film sequences in an only candlelit setting, which until that point was not possible because the film needed to have enough illumination to expose it. So Mr. Kubrick had come up with, he had found that the Zeiss company in Germany had made 10 lenses for NASA, for the Space Administration here in the United States. And he was able to buy 3 of them. 6 of them went to NASA, Zeiss kept 1, and Mr. Kubrick got 3. At that point, he really didn't know, he knew what he wanted to do with them, but didn't know how, well, he actually did know how, but didn't know how he was going to engineer, have it be actually put onto a camera. And he actually spoke to a great cinematographer who had just passed away, Mr. Haskell Wexler. And Haskell Wexler referred to Mr. Kubrick to a Don DiGiulio, Cinema Products in Los Angeles. And the first response was, it's impossible to put those lenses, given the dimensions, to a camera at that point. Well, Mr. Kubrick was not daunted by the impossibility of that, because he was determined to tell a story his own way. And this is where it's really important. So we'll talk about his own way. So with dogged determination, Mr. Kubrick was able to eventually get some lenses, 2 lenses in particular, mounted to a Mitchell camera, which is upstairs, you can see, with one of the high-speed lenses on it. He was able to mount it to that camera, although the camera was designed for rear projection and was not used for as a conventional principal photography camera. And so Mr. Kubrick was like ahead of the game here. So once Mr. Kubrick provided the special Mitchell, one of which you see upstairs, to Cinema Products, they were able to actually mount these lenses rather, very high-speed lenses. Now, so you have this really special, you know, sort of setting where you got these high-speed lenses, and people can think, wow, that's cool, really high-speed lenses, higher speed than any, you know, 2 stops faster than any lenses that have been used thus far. And you can sort of leave it at that. Wow, I can shoot, you know, illuminated only by candlelight. In some cases, a lot of candles that you don't often see off screen that gives an ambience to the candles that you see in the scenes. So you've got this ability to render an environment to tell a story. And what's most remarkable about Mr. Kubrick is that very unusually, he was a director and a cameraman. Now, did he ever shoot something for somebody else? No. He would operate in his own camera, thus giving his vision to the world, and where you might hire someone like a Haskell Wexler, who's a visionary cameraman, and you may love his work, but it won't necessarily be exactly your work, in this case, Mr. Kubrick's work. So Stanley Kubrick wanted to use his own equipment that he had handpicked from around the world and modified and engineered to tell his story as a director, cameraman. And there's a distinction, because the film business really discourages you to shoot your own camera for a lot of reasons. Directing a film is very, very complex. It's amazing the amount of information you have to have in your head at any given time, and to add the complexity of rendering cinematically the image, that's so difficult. Plus the fact that you're dealing with talent, let's say, and someone be sitting in front of you, and you're behind the camera, you have this massive camera, and you have this disconnect. You can't see them anymore, and you can't feel them anymore. So Kubrick still wanted to, in a visual way, tell his story to complement the other facets of filmmaking, and very, very successfully. Most notably, I'll say, you have fast lenses, shoot it under candlelight, that's all really neat. Tells this story, we're still talking about it now, and will, for as long as we discuss cinema, talk about that rendering of those sequences in Barry Lyndon. Additionally, we as humans have a threshold of vision. In total darkness, we don't see anything. Only maybe with your imagination, but not with your eyes. We don't see anything. We have two different types of visual receptors, rods and cones. Cones they're three-colored cones. They combine to give you a color rendition. They are less sensitive to light because they only require much more light to see. And they're cones when your ability to see goes down. And it's a single receptor. It's only monochrome. You only see in black and white. So now you have Mr. Kubrick in this environment, and he's creating an environment now where we now go to the threshold of human vision, which is around f1. They say, the experts. There's some debate. Now we're at 0.7. Now we're in half the amount of light that is the human threshold of vision. And funny things happen, because emotionally, when it's getting dark, it's different than when it's light. So Mr. Kubrick wanted to take you into an environment where not only are you visually affected, but you're also emotionally affected. And therein lies an element that is critical to the discussion of this pursuit, this engineering, optical physics, and just, like I said, dogged determination. And I think that's an important element when talking about any photographic capture device is, what is the story you want to tell, and how do you want people to feel? And you want to stay as close as you can to your own vision in order to present your feelings to the outside, or not. It could be just a personal thing. Wow, that made me feel like I felt like when I took the image. That leads me to the second sort of grouping. If you hire as a director, if you're a director and you hire, I am a director, so I know these things in a practical sense. If you hire someone to shoot something for you, and they can be great and are great, but will they be in exactly the same spot as you are at that time? And why? I say no, of course. We all are defined by our DNA. We all see differently, genetically and emotionally. It's a combination of genetics, how we see color. It's different for everyone. You think, oh, blue is blue. No, it's not necessarily the same blue to everyone else. It's not, in fact. And then it's a combination of the emotions of when you saw that blue and what that made you feel. So the idea is that Mr. Kubrick wanted to extend biologically, emotionally, cinematically, storytelling, performance, script, setting, as much of him as he could, which he did, as you, I'm sure, all know, probably why you're here. So at the end of this case, there's an Airflex, a German company camera that is a handheld camera. And Mr. Kubrick really liked the handheld camera because, again, he could render where he wanted to be exactly, not the discussion with somebody else who's very capable, but not Mr. Kubrick. So you'll see press photographs of his use of this 2C camera with this first lens there. It's a canoptic lens. It's a French manufactured lens. And it's a very special lens that requires very little focus. So that eliminates the need for an assistant. So there's someone not, running around with you. Belt on the battery, put on the lens, and he's autonomous, visually autonomous. The very disturbing and famous scenes in Clockwork Orange were shot in there, some stuff with Barry Lyndon. So that is a combination that, again, allows him the autonomy to be himself, as he is genetically and emotionally made up. It also allows the use of very small lenses, some of which are here. There's some Zeiss lenses and Schneider lenses and Cooke lenses. The great British manufacturer sort of defined the look of the 60s. We call them cookies because of the way it's spelled. They're amazing, just the way they render. And on that note, taking it a step beneath that, our center vision, called foveal vision, is very much detailed and sharp. And as our vision goes out to the perimeter, peripheral vision, it gets less sharp, but more emotional. And so emotions are more rendered in the periphery of our vision than in the center. So you can think, wow, I've got this great lens and it's sharp all the way out to the edge, which is sort of modern lens design, which is great for certain things. It may not be the most emotional lens, but it could be a great lens for rendering landscape or a tiger coming from one side of the frame. So these things all contribute to say, wow, Kubrick's collection. And this is a collection that's very specific. This viewfinder here, they say, why is there a viewfinder there? Well, there's a viewfinder there because this viewfinder is an external viewfinder that goes on the Mitchell upstairs, which was at one point in its life a reflex camera seeing through the lens. In order to do that, you have to have a mirror that gives you the image and alternating exposing and the image for you and exposing. And in order to mount these high-speed lenses back on the Mitchell, you had to see the image. So we went to this external viewfinder. I also brought one of these for you to handle if you'd like. Again, here, there's a director's viewfinder here. It's sort of like the opposite. If you'd have a director's viewfinder, like if you're an editor or an actor and you want to be a director, certainly qualified, there are many great ones. But they may not come from a visual background. So they may not know what a 35 millimeter lens is as opposed to a 40 millimeter lens. I know what it is, so I don't need that. Some people do, some people don't. The interesting thing about Kubrick was he likely, I don't know him, we touch in many ways with my family and friends who are in the film business. Most likely that was used for him to describe to the people around him. Oh, the frame ends there. Here, take a look. It's and put it on a 40 millimeter lens, and the end of the couch is over there, so the frame ends there. You don't want to move all the lights and the camera and the dolly and all the people and the craft service, all the M&Ms over there, in a place where you have to move the whole thing again because you have to either change a lens, which you don't want to do because of the acceptance angle. So these are all aids in the personal storytelling of Mr. Kubrick. Everyone has their own work methods. These are beyond unique in so many ways. And so I, on behalf of the Contemporary Jewish Museum, present these to you, and there's amazing stuff here. So I would like to continue a bit if you're interested in answering some questions. I'm here to answer them. Yes?
Other than Barry Lyndon, on the NASA lenses, is there a lens that he used that was very unique, that was something that no one else had ever even bothered?
Well, not that no one else had ever bothered. He was particularly interested in this case, or the sort of housing the high-speed lenses. Mm-hmm. He was very much interested in high-speed lenses and what can be rendered at that level of illumination. So there's an Ingenue 095, which is a stop slower, so it requires twice as much light as the 07, which is a big difference. May not seem like it. So he was very much into, so these were unique. It's very hard to focus because there's razor thin depth of field at these open stops. So a lot of people, well, let's just go in 2 stops so we can, make sure everything's in focus. Well, Stanley wasn't about that. He was put the canoptic on the 2C and just go where you want to go. It gave a freedom. So, but uniquely, the lenses, the other lenses that are accessible, the Cooke and the Schneiders, the Ingenue, they all create, like the Cookes. In a motion picture, you have to have lenses that cut together. So if you have 5 different lenses and you're working on a film, and you use 5 lenses in that same setting, they all have to cut together. So all of their color codings have to be the same. Beyond stills. Stills don't have to do that because the lasting image is typically, I'm not going to say in all cases, typically 1 image. So, the Cookes render in a way that was emotionally correct for him and for countless filmmakers even today, adapting them to digital capture devices. So the answer is they're all unique to him, and but no one has you can actually rent them out of England now. Very, very expensive. There are a couple, the 2 lenses, the 36.5 and the 50mm that you can rent. So they're actually available. But NASA made 10. He got 3. So you can go talk to NASA. And yes.
To add 2 more details that I recently read
Yeah.
About the low light trickery that he used.
Yeah.
Number 1, he trained his actors to stay within that thin frame of focus, and basically instructed them to only move right and left, and never to bend forward or lean backwards so as not to break the focus. And I also read that he had special candles constructed with double wicks, so he kind of cheated that as well.
There's a lot of information coming out because there are a lot of people around who worked with him. But in Barry Lyndon, there was at least one case, maybe one of the wide shots, where an entire wall was candles. So again, there's a function of luminance that is what's called a foot candle. It's the amount of illumination, 1 candle at 1 foot. And no matter what you do, you can have a lot of candles or double wicks, but they tend to stay within the physics of illumination and then the fall off, from the source. But yeah, this is definitely, one quick thing is, I work at f1 all the time, and the interesting thing, if I want to take an image of you 2, I can triangulate. In other words, I'll find focus here, and I'll find focus here. Oh, it's a little bit off, so I have to move in a little bit. So I'll find focus here, still in focus, great. So there are little tricks that you can do. They're very challenging, but yes, people would have to know how to work within the limitations of the scene. Yes?
I remember when he was still with us, there was a lot of talk about how people at Industrial Light and Magic would get calls from him in the middle of the night, or they'd wake up, and that he actually scrapped a lot of the stuff he was working on in AI when he saw Jurassic Park and what was going on. I'm just curious, because being, he's very famously a photographer, and if you think he would have embraced digital technology eventually.
It's just my opinion, and I would say absolutely.
Yeah.
This is a man who is feverishly in the pursuit of telling a story, and any tools that you can get, some of which you see here, or a lot of which you see here, aid in that storytelling. These are tools. He had these because he didn't want anybody else touching them. I tell my assistants, if you bump anything, if you bump yourself into a wall, I want to know about it. If there's a bag on your other shoulder, because I have to, at the end of the day, the film has to go to the lab, and the people who paid me need to see what's correct. So if no one ever touches them, once he finds them, they get the collimated, everything's cleaned, everything, they go into his closet. They're tools. And today, digital capture is unbelievable. It doesn't have to be special effects, but digital capture to me is just film. It's another film. It's a more modern film. And you choose your capture relative by the sensor that's in the camera. Is it like this type of film or that type of film? How does it tell the story emotionally? How does it render colors? Couple it with the Kubrick lenses, and you use Arri Alexa, and you get a look. You find the look. Like this gentleman over there is hopefully going to find what he wants to say and what it looks like. So my feeling would be that Kubrick could be all over it. People from ILM would be calling him because when he first approached Cinema Products and said, I want to mount these lenses on the Mitchell, they said, it's impossible. Well, he described to them how to do it. Well, I've got this camera, and you pull out the reflex system, the mirror system, and I think there's a flange focal distance that, he's a very, very knowledgeable man.
2 aperture values.
Yeah, so there's I would think that would continue. I don't, the boys now like the Soderberghs and stuff, working now. If you like the look of the film, shoot film. It doesn't matter. By the way, everything that's been being captured on digital cinema now is being archived back to film. Everything. So I say, if you want to shoot film because the infrastructure continues on to today. So they've always seen digital failure. It's like, and they don't want to play around with that. So everything's being archived to film in Utah underground. Yeah. Okay, last question, as I understand.
How do you get the incredible depth of field, other than shooting at infinity, but like 10 to 15 feet away? How do you get the incredible depth of field you have where the whole room essentially is in focus? I've always been amazed by that.
That would take like a month to explain, but I'm going to explain it really quickly. Don't question me because there are variations of this, but in any optical system, your eyes, a lens, a camera, there's only one point of focus, period. Depth of field is also referred to as the circle of confusion, which is exactly that, confusing. Because in that scene you just described, there's only one point of focus. It just appears acceptably in this circle of confusion that more is in focus. And so it's the appearance of things, and depth of field also, by any given image size, it does not matter the focal length of the lens. At any given aperture, the same image size has the same depth of field. I know it's confusing, and people don't like to believe that second one, but so put your finger out in front of your face, look at it, and you'll see everything else is out of focus besides your finger. Not even the extension of your other finger is in focus when you focus on your finger. So it's only apparent. It's fooling you. Your brain does, and your visual system does amazing things. Yep.